This is one of those topics whereby my centrism is going to be, let's say, put on hold or to the side because this is a video that is more to the left. There's some videos I make that are much more to the right. This is much more to the left. But I think I will lay out a case that is very strong, and yeah, that's the way it is. Like I say, the thing about being a centrist is that it's got nothing to do with sitting on the fence or being woolly minded and not having strong views. I do have strong views on certain subjects, and they may well fit into the well to the left or well to the right. So be it. People can interpret it whatever the way they want, but I'm just making that kind of brief explanation. Okay, I want to talk about the scandal at Sports Direct and the CEO, Mike Ashley. Um, Basically, Sports Direct is a major sports retailer in the UK. They sell football equipment, tennis equipment, boxing equipment, etc. Um, it's a major high street brand. They've got branches in virtually every big town in the city. Um, and recently, there has been allegations and exposés of appalling conditions, especially in the Derbyshire base. Now, I don't know if that's a headquarters or if it's just a particularly bad case example. But the situation in the Derbyshire building was so bad. This is some of the statistics as reported by Channel 4. 110 ambulance callouts, 50 life-threatening cases among those, 5 cases of pregnant women, 1 case of a pregnant woman having to give birth in a toilet because she was frightened that she would be docked pay if she took time off. These conditions have been described as Dickensian, Victorian. Apparently, workers, if they were a minute late, they would be docked 15 minutes' pay. And added to that, he was underpaying staff, or I should say the company was underpaying staff, um, paying people £6.50 when the legal minimum wage is, I believe, about £7.20. Clearly, there's been exploitation going on in Sports Direct. Mike Ashley had to appear before a Parliamentary Committee. I wasn't impressed by his performance, by what I've seen. Kind of half apologies, excuses, and rambling around the issues, skirting around very important issues. As far as I'm concerned, we need a situation whereby nobody, nobody thinks that they are above the law. What that should mean is that where you have clear cases of exploitation, someone in a high position should be held accountable. And if that means prison sentence, I'm absolutely for it. You know, what bothers me about this is conservatives and people on the right think that if you question this, you're some sort of communist or you're anti-business. What I would say is it's actually to the detriment of business treating workers in this way because, firstly, when exposes come out, it damages the brand image. That goes without saying. Secondly, if you have people who are being treated like shit, if they're being treated unfairly, naturally, it's human instinct, they resent that. And as a result, you get a situation unhappy people are not motivated to do their best. And all you get is resentment and an atmosphere of intimidation. And it's a deeply unpleasant atmosphere. Now, this is a personal thing for me because I've been in situations where I feel that I have been exploited. And I don't go around, playing the victim. I've had most of the jobs I've had, I haven't had this problem, but I have had the unfortunate experience, especially in the catering industry. And I believe it is rife in the catering industry of restaurants basically exploiting staff. Dozo in Sunderland. I'm going to just say it. Dozo in Sunderland. It's now Louis Louis. I don't really give a shit about, if the former manager wants to take any action against me, he can, because what I'm saying is the absolute 100% truth. I worked for that place for a week, and it was on the understanding that I got a job as a waiter. So at the end of the week, I said, "Can I just ask what's the payment situation here? I've been working for a week." Now, the manager turned around and said, "Well, actually, he didn't speak directly to me. He was in London. He said that workers are not paid for this week because it's a training week." Now, this would be fine if they had explicitly specified that in the beginning. No one told me that would be the situation. In my opinion, that's unacceptable. So I quit. Obviously, I'd done a week of work without being paid for it. It was a disgrace. I was furious, but there was very little I could do about it. And I think we have a situation. I'm not going to get into comparisons with other countries because I don't know enough about the situation in other countries, but I do believe in the UK we have a very serious problem with exploitation in the workplace. It's rife. It's rife because you get greedy CEOs of companies, and it isn't all, by the way, multi-billionaire, like the really, really top guys. You get bosses who are in sort of middle range who are just as bad. Um, so that's something that needs to be pointed out. One MP said, "Is it a problem that you've made this to Mike Ashley that you've made this company so big that it's overgrowing your management size?" In other words, like it's kind of went beyond his control. I don't really accept that. I think if you're the CEO of the company, it's your job to absolutely ensure that this sort of thing doesn't happen. If I was the CEO of a big company, I would absolutely prioritize this. Sure, I would want profit. Sure, I would want the company to grow. And I'm not speaking from a socialist perspective. I'm not a socialist. But this shouldn't even be about left and right wing. It should be about basic fairness. That's all we're talking about. But on this issue, I do absolutely support the unions. I do absolutely support those on the left who say this is intolerable. And I will say this, whilst I stand by all my critique of Jeremy Corbyn and his Labour Party and some of the things that are going on, I will give Jeremy Corbyn credit for not being afraid to speak out on these sort of issues. You do need that in British politics. I really reject and resent this idea that the only way that anyone who questions a business exploiting its workers is somehow anti business. Quite the opposite. I want businesses to flourish. They provide jobs, they are good for the economy, obviously. But I don't want that at the price of workers being treated like cattle and Victorian-like conditions. This is absolutely unacceptable. This is 2016. No one should be working in these sort of conditions in this day and age. But there are other things going on in our society that the general public do not realise. Workfare. Part of the government's work programme, the wider public believe that unemployed people simply get free money. Again, this is something I've had experience of. The whole point about workfare, so-called workfare, is that unemployed people after a certain time, it's usually about 2 months. Say that about that what you will, but after about 2 months, and don't quote me on the exact time period, I'm not sure exactly when it is, but they're basically sent to it could be a factory or some sort of company, and they're told you have to just work, right? Now, you people might say, "Oh well, what's the problem with that? They're getting free money from the government, so what are they complaining about?" Here's the catch: they're doing a 9 to 5 job, right? Or 9 to 3 in some cases, depends on the specific location. They're getting paid for that. If you are on universal credit, you're a single person on universal credit, it's £314 a month. Okay. Now, if you're doing a 9 to 3 job, this works out at approximately £2.50 an hour. It's exploitation, pure and simple. This is a scandal what's happened in Derbyshire, but what the wider public don't realise is what's happening with workfare is even worse. And when the Tories say that they're against exploitation, and Theresa May and co make say, oh, they're shocked by what happened in Derbyshire, the Tories have directly emboldened this culture by basically s- sending out this message that anyone who kind of voices anger at exploitation is anti-business. They have fostered this atmosphere whereby if you call for basic fairness, you're somehow against business. That really pisses me off. What is wrong with expecting CEOs to be held to account? Why should anyone in this country be above the law? Now, it is good that he's been dragged before a parliamentary committee. As far as I'm concerned, he should be in jail. Because, quite frankly, On the lower end of the scale, if you have gang masters, um, and they're found to be exploiting people, they're jailed, and rightly so. As far as I'm concerned, they're scumbags. But what's the difference between them and a multi-billionaire like Mike Ashley? He deserves no respect. He's a self-made man. He's built a big business. Sometimes I feel concerned that there's this misconception that if someone provides jobs, then suddenly they're a good person. This is one of the lines being used about Donald Trump. Um, if someone provides jobs, they're automatically a good person. Not necessarily. What if people are working in appalling conditions in those jobs? Technically, they're jobs, but you have to look at the conditions that workers um, are working in, and all over the world. This is a problem. It isn't just Britain. I mean, this is a major issue, and it is one area I do admit that I'm much more to the left, and it's one area I just cannot align myself with conservative thinking on, because the conservative mindset is money, profit, and they see people as robots. They don't see people as people. So most conservatives don't really give a shit about workers' rights and workers' conditions, and they think that if anyone talks about that, there's some sort of communist or um, you know far left figure who is anti-business. What I argue is that the way for business to develop, the way for everybody to be happy, is for the workforce to be treated fairly. And if people are being underpaid, if they're having to face draconian rules, if they are frightened to get time off because they're pregnant, this sort of situation is absolutely, frankly, disgusting. So I don't know how this has been exposed, whether it's been a whistleblower or whoever it is that has brought this about. I give them full respect and full credit. I don't know whether it was the unions or one of the workers who kind of blew the whistle on this, but it's absolutely appalling. And as far as I've zero sympathy for this guy, Mike Ashley. I just don't buy this thing. Oh, the company's beyond my control. You're the CEO. You're responsible. He should be checking out at some time in his busy schedule. Granted, busy schedule, but he should be making that one of his priorities, seeing how his workers are treated. That to me seems basic fairness. And this reminds me of Victorian era tyrants who run mills and treat their workers like dirt. There were one or two exceptions of mill owners who did have a much better ethical code, but many Victorian mill owners were just tyrants, basically. This is 2016, for God's sake, and it's shocking that we're hearing about this happening in this day and age. So, just for conclusion, credit and respect to those who have blown the whistle. And when those who say that unions are just a nuisance, and unions do serve a purpose. Okay, I don't agree with every decision and action they take. I don't believe in wildcat strikes. I don't believe in unions holding companies hostage. But unions do have a very important role to play in democracy by holding CEOs to account and by ensuring that workers do have, um, that there is basically fair treatment. This is actually a question of human rights. And when we lecture other countries about this, we have to remember we are very far from perfect in this country. It is important that we have accountability, that we have these committees. So people say politicians are useless. I don't agree with that. I think that these sort of committees are extremely important. And someone like Mike Ashley needs to be grilled because they arrogantly think that they could do what they want, and that has to end. This culture of arrogance at the very top needs to end. So it does make me angry, and there needs to be a lot more empowerment of workers, employees. I'll put it that way, employees, because I'm aware when I talk about workers that people could very easily plaster me as a communist. I'm not, but it's just about basic fairness. When employees are happy, you get better output. That's common sense. If people are happy in their place of work, they're going to want to go to work. They're going to really work hard. That makes sense because they'll feel pride in what they're doing. They won't feel that they are cattle being pushed into a corner and just so there's a few basic things need to come out of this. Firstly, it should send out a message that all CEOs of all major companies, and it is true that Sports Direct isn't the only one. Some people who say, "Oh, why Mike Ashley?" I think it's because this is the worst of the worst. But there are other companies that have shamefully exploited people. In my opinion, any company that took on the government's work placements, exploiting unemployed people because of bribery from the government, that is to say, the government gives them a cash incentive to take on unemployed people to be exploited for a month or two. And in many cases, they wouldn't have a guarantee of a job anyway. People say, oh, it's good, it gives them skills. That's all very well. For example, have no problem with the voluntary sector, but you simply cannot force people to work for no salary. That is abhorrent in a democracy, in a developed country. It's abhorrent anywhere. In my opinion, it's just wrong. And this is one area I do think that Jeremy Corbyn has been absolutely right on. And he has spoken out about this. So although I'm critical of some of the things going on in the Labour Party, and I don't unsay anything that I've said, um, that's one aspect I will be honest and I will give Mr. Corbyn credit on because he has spoken up about these very important issues. And I hope the next Labour leader, whether it's him or whether it's Mr. Smith, continues to do that. Um, Incidentally, Corbyn's supporters seem to be more interested in attacking Owen Smith today than because Owen Smith had posted something about this saying that Mike Ashley should hide his head in shame, and they were attacking Owen Smith. Now, you would think that Corbyn's supporters would be agreeing with him and saying, yeah, this is disgraceful. So that just shows the division that's going on within the Labour Party right now. But, excuse me, that's not a blackout. I've got a problem with the light at the moment. So I'll round it up here. Yeah, disgraceful situation from Mike Ashley and his company.